Yay! You're muted though.
Yay! Okay, here we go. Oh my
Wow.
soul. Leave it to us to now have this. Oh my goodness.
Can you
Oh,
believe it? Honestly,
yeah.
I really did not anticipate having any troubles, so sorry about that.
No problem, no problem. It usually happens when you don't want it to happen. But
Exactly.
anyway, um, welcome Julia to our webinar tonight.
Thank
I
you.
think we are in for some exciting times for some exciting information.
Mhm.
For those of you who are just joining us, apologies again for the technical, you know, issues, but sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
But tonight, I would like to introduce you to Julia Robson, and her tag name or her gamer name is Bish, but I'm sure she'll probably explain where that comes from.
Yeah.
And to show solidarity for women in gaming, I've got mine on with my gamer tag, Magic Mad Mags, on so that we can start talking about, empowering girls in esports and what should a girl know? How does she navigate this world? But first off, Julia, would you mind sharing a little bit of your journey with us so we can understand where you come from and how you are sharing your journey with us?
Yes, please. And guys, I'm so sorry in advance. I've actually written down a whole bunch of things because I was thinking it's probably best I come at this with a structured approach. So I've written down a few things, and honestly, when it came to the topic of bioing me, I actually had a little bit of a chuckle to myself because honestly, I'd have to preface jack of all trades. But ultimately, in short, I'm an esports personality that, started my career through the social media landscape, and I am now a brand ambassador actually to Acer, which we actually share a sponsorship with Kuro, and that's how I got into this conversation. And I started my career competing in gaming and also live streaming, and I now own my own business where I host gaming events, and I use social media ultimately as a tool to create that lifestyle for myself. So yeah, all encompassing, jack of all trades, but gaming through and through.
It's absolutely amazing. I've seen your journey since I started with esports when we first started our own Kira esports journey with Acer as well. So just on this, what sparked your passion in gaming? Why did you enter gaming? Why did you start with gaming?
Damn, I think it really has to go back down to, learning about gaming through the boys in my family. It was very much a boys' thing to do. Christmases, we were all huddled together on the family eetkamertafel with our PCs and our laptops, and we were just trying to play literally any game that would run. And from there, I was still very much a competitive horse rider during that time. I competed in dressage as early as the age of 8 years old. I've always been a horse rider, thought that was going to be the be all and end all of my life. Um, and I'll get to that in a sec, but ultimately, gaming was something that was sort of a household item. It was something that happened. It was something that I got excluded of because I was a girl. I wasn't cool to hang with the boys' cousins, and it's always the people that I wanted to hang out with. So my brother started attending these events called LAN events, and I'm sure the Kuro group will know quite a lot about them. And so we used to go to LAN events hosted in the Belleville Velodrome, and at that stage, it was 1,000 people that would come from all ages, all walks of life, every last weekend of the month. We would host a massive 1,000-man LAN at the Belleville Velodrome. This was before internet, so
Wow.
we all connected on LAN to each other. And yeah, it was a very interesting period of time in the gaming world, in the tech world. There was not that much antivirus protection, that was not that much hack protection, there was not that much internet protection as a whole. So definitely was ultimately a big soup of different types of people and cultures and gamers coming together and celebrating this love that we have for gaming with one another. And so it started from getting into that space that really sparked a passion for me. I didn't know it at the time, but because of how much gaming I had during my day-to-day life. It was my after-school activity. It was the way for me to wind down. We didn't have a TV at home. So this was kind of the way that I connected with my brother. And throughout that process, I realized that, there's something here for me. I was always wanted to make new friends here. I felt super creative. I loved new games. I loved the Borderlands series. I had no idea what I was doing at the time, but I was having the best time going through this story game, and I felt like it was a story like no other. And ultimately, fast forwarding a few years forward, I was studying dentistry at the time, and gaming was sort of the underlying thing that I got to do when I got back from university. I had no idea at the time, but my love for going to visual arts class and being social at school was something that played through in my gaming career a lot, and something that I chased quite a lot was that passion to create, that passion to connect with other people that also love to create. And eventually it was something that just became a constant in my life. I was, as I mentioned, a hyper competitive horse rider at the time. And my horse actually unfortunately passed away in 2015. And I used gaming as a method to get over that big loss I had in my life. And I found friendships online with people that I still have to this day that got me through that period of time. I used my competitive drive with horse riding, translated it into gaming, and lo and behold, a few years later, I was one of the only female competitors in the local Counter-Strike scene that was still competing actively in multiple different leagues, male, female, mixed, and I was really just kind of strong arming my way into the competitive gaming space. Wherever I could compete, I competed. And so with that trajectory, a lot of things were happening at the time, and I was studying dentistry, and I had this opportunity to go overseas and attend a international event. I made zero money from it. I had no idea what I was doing. I took my passport. I didn't tell my
Wow.
mom, and I stayed in Taiwan for 2 months. And I don't recommend this for anybody, but at the time, the industry was so small, so niche. It was very much a who you know type of situation. And at that moment, I couldn't explain it to anyone. I had this passion in me, and I just needed to see it through. And so I went over to Taiwan, experienced what the gaming industry really looked like. And this is like the global scale where you see, Twitch streamers with millions of viewers, and YouTubers with mass amounts of subscribers, and how they're living their lives. And also on the converse side, how does it look from a corporate perspective, and how do they look at influencer marketing, and how do they look at social media, and what is their role to play? And then, even further than that, with ASA, for example, having that education outreach, how do they look at their programs, and what does that mean for the next level of youth, or the next generation that's to come? And it really opened my eyes to saying, wow, okay, this is not just, I'm playing with friends, and, gaming in my mom's basement. Like, no, I'm actually really stepping into a whole new industry that not a lot of people know about, that's not very well established in South Africa. And that's ultimately what got me into where I am today, is realizing the trajectory of saying, this is something that I'm excited about, and going, wow, okay, I see the people, I see the industry, I see the things happening, and I want to do whatever I can to put myself in this place.
Well, I mean, I know also a little bit about your history, starting at 14, and I think getting into that in those days, those intro gamer situations. I think it was quite difficult for a young girl to actually navigate those almost what we would call a male-dominated industry at that time. Even today, it's difficult to see a full team of girls competing somewhere. It's just starting to, kind of snowball, where you will see just teams with just girls or just females in it. So, how did you face all of those initial challenges in this male-dominated industry when you started out really being competitive in what you did? I mean, Call of Duty is not what you would call a girl sport by any
No,
chance.
absolutely not. And I also don't recommend it for 16-year-old girls. It
Yes,
is
definitely
not
not.
really a place where I could say that I found the most grace or that I found the most emotional maturity. It's absolutely not where you're going to be looking for those two things. But it was also a space where I'm very fortunate. And I want to preface this that I grew up in a space where gaming in South Africa, especially, keeping it localized, was not as popular as it is today. And so the group of people that were sitting at the top ranks were usually people that took competing in Call of Duty and playing video games as a whole very seriously. So it was people that really dedicated time to it, really dedicated time to their craft and understood that it is a craft and it is something that isn't given. It was, by chance, a miracle that we get to compete at the end of the year at a Comic-Con. Now it's becoming so much more normalized that I think the variety of people that you meet in these competitive spaces, whether it's competitive, creative, wherever, the top ranks, so to say, of each one of these silos of industry, I think, is predominantly dominated by people that now have had introduction to the scene and have had opportunity to upskill themselves and are now sitting at a level that's much higher barrier to entry. It's similarly to looking at like theater or music or dance as a career. It's like, how do you turn that into a career? You kind of need to network and meet people and upskill yourself and, possibly have a background in one of these skills that get you there. And so that's usually where we are now. And so I was very fortunate to be in a space where I could jump into a random lobby and be like, hey, I'll be your fifth. And then all of a sudden I'm there. So I think I look at it differently now, but ultimately, especially looking at the male dominated topic here, because I feel like that's the key word here, I never really excluded myself from any conversation because I was a girl or
Yeah.
I knew less or I wasn't skilled enough. But I always walked into a conversation wanting to learn more. And I
Yeah.
think that was the thing that was a lot more, I guess, enticing for the guys that allowed me to play in their teams, is because I wasn't just going in there saying, I'm a girl, I'm afraid to learn, this is not my place. Instead, I was like, I love Call of Duty. I love gaming. I love LANing. It's amazing. It's exciting. At that point, I've already been studying smokes. I've already been studying, how to get into these difficult lobbies and hold my own. I was already spending the hours. So I automatically qualified purely because I put in the time. And I think that's why I never considered it a male dominated thing. I only consider gaming male dominated in demographic purely because of historically gaming has been marketed to boys. We don't live in that era anymore. It's very much marketed for both genders and all genders, shall I say. And I think there's just this one piece of me that makes me go and say, we just, as girls, have not had the same amount of time to develop as many skills as the boys did purely because of exposure. And I don't think that that's the case anymore. So right now, it's really just a mental thing. Just get in there, just learn.
See, and that's what we need to hear from someone who's had experience in the field, where you can actually tell a girl who feels still almost on the outside, specifically if she comes from an all-girls school. So, I mean, we don't have any Kiro schools that's all-girls schools, but can you imagine? I mean, I can just imagine if you are never really in friendship circles with boys, but you love gaming. The only way to get in there is literally to get in there, talk the language, know your stuff, get the details. I mean, all of that. It's part and parcel of being a good gamer, being an esports athlete. You can't just show up and think, oh, because I'm a girl, I need to get preference, or I need to play in a weaker lobby, or I don't have that competitive spirit because I'm a girl. If you know what you're talking about, and if you can put it on the table, then it's all for everyone to play.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely dealt with quite a lot of stereotypes thrown at me back in the day. You know, being the blonde girl that's coming in and trying to be all friendly with everyone. I'm just like, hold up, guys, that's so not the case. I'm friendly to you guys because I am friendly, but don't make me not friendly. And I think this is where it's a good opportunity to introduce my slightly PG gaming name. I'm sorry, I was very young when I chose it. And it was chosen for me, and it's one of those things that just stick with you. That's how gaming names work. But it was because of the attitude that I came in with into those COD lobbies, is that I was always the most aggressive person. I was always trying to get out kills. I was always trying to get, sneaky lurks. I was always trying to move myself into a position where I was up in your face, because it was so contradicting to the stereotypes that were traditionally out there. It would give me an edge in the game. And I think I was fortunate to come up in the Afrikaans household where my cousins eventually saw, okay, we can't discount Julia, she's going to play with us. And started seeing that, okay, I'm top scoring consistently, and Julia's actually the person to get off the leaderboard now. And I think from then on, you kind of have that confidence in you where I'm not a stereotype, so I'm not bothered by the stereotypes.
Oh, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, adults read between the lines when you look at Julia's game attack, but that's another way where you as a female in the gaming industry can put your stamp on your own brand and stamp on who you are as a gamer.
Yeah.
And it's by choosing a game attack and just making it personal and yours.
Hmm.
So when we get to all of this, I mean, this webinar tonight is mostly for parents, but I'm sure we have a couple of gamer girls watching, and we'll also share this on all of our other social media platforms afterwards. But why is it so crucial that a parent supports their daughter when it comes to esports?
I think the general question for me, even just looking at the end part of adding esports, is so crucial here, because in any sport, any mental, taxing situation, even doesn't even have to be sport, can also be cultural, can also be, creative, can also be any other topic. Having a support system is so important, because you can go to someone and express your concerns and your fears and have someone that helps you work through that. And I think that's the biggest thing that I can say in my journey. I've had on and off, and it shows. When I've had support, you could see that I was very confident and very single-minded almost in my goals and my passions and achieving those things on the list. Whereas where I didn't have the support necessarily, especially at the start of my career, it took me a lot longer to catch up to speed. It took me a lot longer to build up the confidence to get myself into certain rooms. It took me a lot longer to even establish the ideal of having an passion or an inspiration. I always just thought it was ways to a means to an end. And had I known that I was on the right path, and had I known that I had, someone to support me throughout that process, I think I would have taken off a few years of my career, and probably in a little bit further along the line, especially in the social media aspect, where it is such a difficult thing. It's very difficult for people to navigate as well, even as a support system, because how could you support someone into the unknown? And I think that's something that we all kind of grapple with a little bit. But from my experience, just having someone that says, you know what, I believe in your passion, it's valid, you're inspired, I want to see you do something with your inspiration, I want to see you do something with your creativity. Let's build a foundation. Let's learn a new skill and see where that takes us. Let's set a new goal and see where that takes us. And just having someone that pushes you into the right direction, you can really mean, the difference between having a career and having a hobby. So I think
Yeah,
there's that, yeah.
exactly. No, exactly, because there's so many careers that can stem from esports. I will probably get to it in a little bit, but I mean, if you look at some of the graphs and the research, I think there's thousands of careers that can stem just from, a little bit of experience in gaming and seeing the community. So when it comes to all of this, as as girls, we are experiencing things differently, and we also go through various phases in our lives. So how do you feel parents can encourage healthy gaming habits and confidence? Because there's some things you need to do to make sure that you are not doing this as an obsession or as a something addictive. How do you balance that?
I think goal setting is the primary way of going about this, especially when it comes to, forming habits. There's so many things that you can do, but I think the first and foremost thing that you need to understand about gaming is the why. Why are you gaming? Are you gaming because you want a creative outlet? Are you gaming because you have an inkling that you feel like you can be very competitive at something? Are you looking to create content like someone that has inspired you and follow into their footsteps? Is it maybe something a little bit less serious than that? It's a fun hobby for you, or maybe just a skill that you're keen to learn, or all your friends do it, so you do it. And I think once you've established that why, and this is definitely again where parents' support come in, having those conversations with the students, and I think also coaches as well, like understanding the reason why they're gaming. For me, initially, it was 100% because I felt the desire to compete in something because I've had such a long history of being a competitive horse rider. It replaced that for me. And so I threw everything I had at being a competitive player, which then ultimately eventually turned around where I realized that I don't really have that passion to compete anymore, but I love being a part of the gaming scene. I love being a part of the community, and like, what can I do to get myself there? So that even that transition, you need to understand why you're spending the time, why you want to build healthy habits, why you want to set goals. Otherwise, I feel like it really can become a negative space quite quickly. You are exposed to a lot of social interaction. You are exposed to a lot of creatively influencing visuals and worlds and stories. And I think these things can become very debilitating at times if you're not sure why you're spending the time in there, why you're not spending the time into building maybe a career that you do see for yourself, and instead spending too much time playing video games, because then it becomes, a lot more brighter as to what the issue at hand is. So I think for me, I've always set goals. When it was competitive, I wanted to maintain a certain rank. When it was creative, I set certain goals for myself visually, and I looked for inspiration from other creators that I found extremely inspiring, and I tried to replicate the, I guess, production quality that they are creating. And then eventually, when I reached that level, my next goal was to reach their production quality and put my own story on it, put my own twist on it, make it more original, make it more authentic. And so that's how I continuously set goals. And I think that's super important.
And I think also, making sure that you build your confidence and, having your encouragement from a parent, believing in you, um, it really drives that confidence. And you were speaking about the challenges you found um, as a young girl in competitive gaming, but I want to kind of broaden that and add to the whole community and the whole esports scene as a whole. You also said, I'm seen as the stereotypical blonde girl. Do you still have that issues, and how do you address that, or how do you think if your parents could guide you now to go through all of that, how what would help? What would help for you? What helped you? If I put it, sorry.
Well, I think the biggest thing for me, especially in confidence building, is, and really, I'll be honest, it's taken up until now to really like put my feet on the ground and say this is where I'm standing type thing. The first and foremost thing was I identified my why. I've set certain goals. I started ticking off some of those goals. I built a level of skills that I know can be beneficial to multiple industries. It doesn't just have to be video gaming. I've taken an advanced course in project management, for example, just so that I can host a LAN. It was setting those types of goals for myself and achieving those mini milestones that gave me the power to be able to say that I'll do whatever I want next, you know. And so I think the way that I would go about, especially the topic on support, is identifying, again, just I sound like a broken record, but I guess you can't really be subjected to stereotypes again if you aren't the stereotype. So yeah, I mean, on face value I might look like the blonde gamer girl that streams on Twitch, but if you never watched any on my Twitch streams, if you've never engaged into any of my content pieces, if you've never seen me at events, you will have those, you know, preconceived notions of me purely based off of appearance. And I think that's quite simple-minded. So I don't really look at, I don't really feel that type of pressures. When I step into an event space and I've hosted 2 successful sold-out LANs, at that point, that's where I go, you know what? This isn't just something that dudes can do. In fact, I did it better because I'm a girl and I thought about, I don't want the dude next to me to be stinking. And I don't want someone after this to write on Twitter, Interland was dope, but it was stinky. So I immediately found a deodorant sponsor. And it was the first LAN I've ever been at that had a deodorant sponsor. And it was also one of the things that everybody commented on. So Interland thinks about stuff a little bit further. And that's how, you know, you put yourself a new step further and another step further. And you're like, I'm definitely not the blonde girly Twitch streamer that just messes around and doesn't have, you know, at least a 1+ KD. So yeah, I think it's just quite silly stereotypes in general, and quite frankly, it doesn't really faze me. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, exactly. I think so many girls. I read an article where someone asked you, what is your role model? And I don't even know if you remember that one, but your response was that as a role model, you feel that that person really needs to showcase all of the elements of what you want to achieve. And you really are a role model for girls, just to build and break through those stereotypes, or the feeling that there is a stereotype, and saying, I will not be stereotyped. This is me and I'm going for it.
Yeah.
That
And I
is a
think also
resilience that you've built up.
I think also I responded in that same article saying I don't have one because I haven't met someone like that. And I think that there's some truth in that, but the true reality of that, you know, looking at it even further, is that you do have to kind of set the standard sometimes, especially in an industry that is so new, especially in South Africa. We have strides and so much length to cover in the community just to even get close to what is happening to our European counterparts. And I
Yeah.
think that should be such an inspiration to young people, to coaches, to parents alike, because there's so much to still grow in this industry. Whereas if you're stepping into a space like, you know, for example, you want to be in one of the top orchestras in the world, it is so impossible to even track down the best composer in the world, because they've been doing this for years, generations, their family has been a part of it. Like,
Yep.
music has such a massive industry. Where do you even start? Where we are now, fortunately, with gaming, is it's still very much in the first few generations, and we have so much to still uncover in technology. And this goes further than just esports and gaming. This is tech, this is coding, this is production, this is creativity, this is mathematics, robotics, AI. There's so many topics that is utilizing gaming as a base, so to say, to
Yep.
encourage young students, from, you know, any walk of life, to become inspired by the growth of technology. And if that is someone that you are, then it's going to be a natural next phase for you to start looking at careers in STEM, or maybe even, you know, more creative aspects. And there's something to be learned from video gaming if you look at it in that way. So I think it really it comes down to sort of looking at it at this is a skill. This is increasing dexterity. This is increasing sociability. This is increasing creativity. And if you're not looking at it in that way and setting goals and constantly pursuing that, it can also turn very negatively. So there is that yin and yang.
Now, on that specific topic about skills, because I agree with you 100%, there's so many skills that you learn through gaming. Even esports, something we take for granted, but conflict management or how to talk with respect to a fellow, player. Because when you need them and you need your player support in a game, you're not standing alone. This is a team sport. You need to know how to communicate with your friends if you want their support. Do you have any other tips or for our gamers, whether they're girls or boys, but to improve their skills and how to find mentorship and find someone, or where do they start? Where do they start if they want to, after school and so forth?
Honestly, I know this is going to sound so dumb, but YouTube is a fantastic platform right now. I have found the most comprehensive guides on how to improve skill, how to improve aim, how to improve teamwork, how to find teams, how to find people. There's so many things that you can learn through YouTube, and naturally, it being a free platform, you would really just be silly not to spend time into asking your questions into the search engine and finding videos that would be interesting. I do say I exercise caution here because there's also a lot of misinformation and there's also a lot of fluff out there in the world, and I think it takes a certain type of determination to find the right types of portals where you can find these things. And Mags, remind me, but I actually have a fantastic portal specifically for gaming
Well,
that I would like to share after this. So there's a few channels that I recommend, and honestly, I think you can learn so much just by watching a few YouTube videos that could put you onto the right path and, maybe identify a certain mindset to look at your next game, your next match with friends in a different light. And maybe that inspires a next goal or a next thing for you to achieve. And I think that's a beautiful way to go about it.
I think also when you do find something, involve your parents or your mom or your dad or whoever is supporting you, just to help you curate. I had a webinar last week with Yuan, and where he spoke about, the adult can use their adult brain, just have a different viewpoint
Very
on what
true.
you are seeing. So, use that resource. Grab your mom and say, look at this with me. I know you don't understand the gaming, but look at the rest of the stuff, what's going on behind the scenes or what's said that I'm not hearing because I'm focused on the game, and just help me and see if this is someone I should be modeling myself after.
hmm And I also do the same thing with Interlan, which is the business that I, host these gaming events with. And we have a all-encompassing approach where we're also thinking about, the digital engagement with gamers. Like, how do we approach that? How do we stand out? How do we make this work as a business? And so what I always do is whenever I have a new idea, I have 7 people that I go to and I tell them the exact same sentence, the exact same concept. I show them the reference material. And often they would come back with me and say, I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't engage with that. Like, I don't like this. I prefer this channel that you've never heard of before. On the topic of, a board game, for example, called Dungeons and Dragons. I've never played it before in my life. I knew automatically that I've want to incorporate that in our future events. So I immediately went to people that do play it, and I was like, how do I go about this as someone who's never played it, but I want to have a business that features this, but I want to do good by the community. Give me the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. And that's where you use, like you say, your adult brain into going about this and saying, you know, with my experience as an adult, to a young student saying this is not a rational goal to set being a YouTuber at 19. The sacrifices you need to make to create content, the inauthenticity that you don't see behind the scenes in order to get that content, the amount of algorithms and social media content plans and strategies that you have no idea about yet and absolutely cannot fit in 3 years and fathom into that. young, elastic brain of yours, it's not worth that effort. However, it does not say don't do it. It says do it on your terms. Set the goals that you want, learn the skills that you need, and explore it. Encourage that exploration, encourage and support the idea, because there is inspiration behind it. Wherever there is excitement, there's a level of inspiration to uncover. And you never know, that could be a newfound passion that just drives the person into doing something unprecedented.
No, exactly. So we were talking specifically now also about how girls can thrive in this esports community, and we have a question from a coach as well asking this, and I'm going to kind of join these two.
Mhm.
The first part of the question would be, so do you have any insights into forming, or when it comes to joining an all-female focused gaming community, and what do you think? Should coaches celebrate all female teams? Is it something they should drive at school? If you could roll time back, how would you feel about that one?
So, as someone who's competed all female and mixed, I've also managed male teams. So, I think I can consider myself almost all three categories I have experience in, and at lengths, I would say. I've done this for multiple years, both as a gamer, on the sidelines, as a support, part of the manager, owner of the team. I think I've like covered all the bases. Um, and I can say unequivocally, I personally, as a lover of gaming, would prefer to encourage, the sort of, don't look at it from a gender perspective, look at it from a skills perspective. Where do you find yourself most comfortable? And I think that's where girl teams can be extremely beneficial. It's looking at the individual. How comfortable are they in communicating with other players? Are they more comfortable with communicating with girls versus guys? Do they have certain insecurities that maybe make them tense up in situations and don't showcase their full potential? These are all things that I think play as variable factors into the topic. Personally, I was never a all girls team type of player. I was always too aggressive, too, almost too crass, if I can say, with how I communicated. For me, I took a game on very logically, but then again, if I get the criticism back, I'm like, what are you talking about? So it took a lot for me to understand, okay, if I want to spit it out like that, then I need to take it back like that. So the boys really taught me that if I'm going to say something demanding or be demanding, they're going to be demanding back at me. It's not because I'm a girl. Like, that's out of the window. You are a player in our team. And I think that gave me so much, I guess, emotional growth in a sense, because it allowed me to learn how to take really harsh criticism. Logical thinking was another topic that I don't feel like I dealt with very well, and I feel like because of gaming, I do now. I also understand how to communicate with boys and also how to tell them no. I've also heard it all, so I'm not shocked by anything anymore. Whereas I think with girls, especially online, it can be a very supportive environment. It can also be a very cushioned environment where you aren't exposed to as many players and skilled players. Specifically, the emphasis here is the skill level of the players and the exposure to that, because specifically in competitive thinking, if you want to improve yourself as a gamer, you need to expose yourself to multiple different gaming styles and be able to develop your own that you can then find confidence in and upskill over time. And I think that's where I think video gaming in an all-female team can be slightly limiting. So in it all comes down to confidence level. It all comes down to comfortability. It all comes down to where do you want to fit yourself in as a gamer. I also personally think that sometimes all female gaming communities can be way more creative And so if your goal is again to become a fantastic game designer and think of things differently and come up with something that doesn't fit the status quo, then maybe finding game jams, arranged by females or that have multiple females present is probably the place for your student to go. And so, yeah, I think it really just comes down to having, again, conversation, asking hard questions, finding out what the why is, where's the passion laid out, what skills do you need to achieve that goal, and then sort of lay the path out from there. And to answer your question on where do you find them, fortunately, our gaming scene is still extremely approachable. I don't think there is a space in esports in South Africa that's unapproachable, and I would even argue this internationally as well. It really comes down to a nicely worded email, set up a call, introduce yourself, introduce your goals, ask your questions, and I'm confident that you will get a response. At the very least, from me, you will. So even if that's just one door open, it's there. I think when it comes to all female groups, I don't know of any established sort of discords that's only for girls where they foster sort of a girls only environment. And quite frankly, I would steer clear of groups like that. I think it's safe to go the route of trusting Curo Esports that has the interest of the students at heart, and also has the opportunity to say, okay, let's create an all-female team and regulate that. And I think that's where, the emphasis and the power of what you guys are doing at Curo Esports, really comes in to light here, because you guys can create an environment that is a lot more controlled and that does introduce students into a safe space without them, kind of being thrown into the deep end, making it work for themselves, which is pretty much how I lived my life. So nothing wrong with it. You'll turn out fine if you have good principles and a good heart. But I think at the end of the day, you will be saved a lot of hardships by, trusting organizations that will put the students and the players' best interest at heart. And that's where you guys already partnered with ACGL, another space, to very easily reach out to them, socials, email, they'll 100% respond. They have ACGL, which is an all-female once a year annual Women's Day Cup. Any girl can join. It's family friendly games. You can be a streamer, you can just be a casual connoisseur, and these are things that you can start being a part of.
Exactly, and what I can add on to that as a coach, because I've had this question a couple of times, why would I want to, put energy into creating an all-girls team? But I'm going to touch on what you said. It's about how comfortable is that specific player with the other gender. If it's a girl that's very shy and she would flourish with her own friends, with girls that she knows how to talk to, she knows how to communicate them, but the moment that a boy steps, I mean, we're still girls, right? The moment a boy steps into the class, you're like, I don't know where to look. I don't know, blushing red in the face. And to think about talking with that boy, and asking him for advice, or even maybe criticizing something that he's done because you're playing together, it's unfathomable to them. And having them in their own little space, safe space with their friends and their, people they know how to communicate with, is perfect. So yeah, as a coach, and that's actually where we came to the next part, next question. So I'm going to jump in here, is how do you foster this? Is you need to know your players as a coach, as a manager, and I think you can also speak to that about as an owner of a team, manager of a team. You need to know your players to know where to put them in and where to divide them in. I mean, you might only have one girl and she's happy. She's another Julia. She's happy playing with the boys. She can give as good as she can, get as she gives, as good as she gets. So you really need to look at that. And to get more girls, there was another question from a coach asking, how does he encourage more girls to join? So do you maybe have something for them on that
Again,
side?
I think it's quite simple. Having your friends play or having a familiar face. Like, I think it's as simple as it's a very daunting experience for anybody to sit down and engage in a game. It takes you out of yourself. You lose a sense of control. You're kind of shocked, and your back's up against the wall because you have a slight fear in you. These are all the normal experiences that all gamers face when they step into a game for the first time. And now what you're doing is you're introducing gaming to someone who already has developed a sense of self. They already know who they are, they already know what their comfort zone is, and now you're showcasing them something super foreign. That's why, traditional sports are so easy to adopt, because from day dot you're running, kicking a ball, playing with your friends. It's a natural experience, right? Whereas sitting down, using a mouse and keyboard, there's a screen in front of you, you're in a different world, there's things running at you. It's not a natural experience whatsoever. It's, quite frankly, quite overwhelming, I could imagine, to a lot of people that started off at the first time. And I think creating something that is a low barrier to entry, finding a game that isn't overstimulating, that is easy to understand, and maybe introducing group play where you have to, group up with your best friend and sit down and play. And, try highlight the end goal, what is happening in the game. It's not just, you're not just sitting around, running around, doing nothing, because it's super easy to get bored. I'm a full-time gamer. I, do this for a living, and I still sit down on my PC. I'm like, I don't want to really play this game right now. I'm bored. And so you need to set that, I guess, goal for what you're trying to achieve. A fantastic game that I cannot recommend enough. It's called Portal. It's old, it's easy to play, and it takes two people, and you have to shoot a hole in the wall with this little laser gun. It's all set in the future, and it shoots a portal, and then you have to shoot another portal and figure out the map so that you can enter one area and exit the other area to get to the finish line. So it takes a lot of teamwork, takes a lot of problem solving. It's pretty much like a big puzzle, but you're running around in this world, and there's no scary things, there's no timer ticking down. It's just something that gives you that ability to like sit down and get into gaming without it being overwhelming. So yeah, I think that's my two biggest tips. From there, also, as coaches already do, I don't have to coach the coaches in this sense, but I'm sure they understand the variety of types of personalities there are in the classroom. You just know that certain people are a little bit more shy and reserved, and those kids might actually do better doing solo games where they aren't being looked at by other players and judged and constantly like worried about their skills, because that's where they'll withdraw. Whereas other players such as myself, who is just like, give me the controller, let me show you how it's done, put them in a position where it is difficult, where it is challenging to you have to communicate with other players to win. So it's not a solo game anymore, Julia. You have to speak to other people to win. And that's a different challenge that you put in that student. And that's where they then see the benefits of gaming. So again, gaming is a very, very umbrella term for a whole host of things, and it could mean quite literally anything in this day and age. And that's where it comes down to using our adult brain, as you said, to put the student in the best possible, situation for them to flourish in.
Yeah, I can't agree more with you. It's exactly that. And it's all about building that sportsmanship, that vibe, the collaboration, the community at your school. As a coach, you are responsible for building that community. And if you don't know how, then join things like the Cura Esports in Daba, or reach out to someone at another school and ask for guidance, ask for advice, reach out to ACGL or Goliath Gaming, or I mean to Julia if you need more advice, because that's the only way we're going to build this, is by working as a community. And dive into the coding and robotics classrooms. I'm sure you'll find another gamer there somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Most definitely.
Well, Julia, we're almost out of time. Do you have any other key takeaways you would like to share with our viewers tonight?
Yeah, I think I just want to preface that, video gaming is a very daunting, space to enter. I think for anybody, whether you're a coach, a parent, a student, really just approaching it the same way that you would approach anything that excites you, whether it's music, whether it's dance, whether it's sports, whatever that case is, using that, I almost want to say childlike curiosity that, fuels you to find out what the next step is and what you need to do to get there. Like, that's really the key here. And I think gaming is ultimately the method of you problem solving, not knowing anything up until knowing everything about the game, and then how to beat the game, and then how to be the best at everybody else that's trying to beat the game. That's kind of what video gaming is. And that journey can lead you on so many different paths. There's actually a very, very beautiful Netflix show, which is the one thing that I want to leave off to you guys. It's family friendly to watch, and I would highly recommend it. It's called, I believe, The Wonderful Life. I'm going to send you a link right now, because it's such a beautiful story, and I think, Mags, you would love it as well. Wonderful Life of Ibelin.
Oh, yes.
Remarkable Life of Ibelin. There we go. And it's on Netflix. I will send the link in chat for anybody that is interested in watching it. And I just think it is such a fantastic example of what gaming can mean to different people, and also the journey that you can go on as a gamer. And at the end of the day, all the goal setting apart, all the skills learning apart, even if you are just here as a casual gamer and you just enjoy it, it really comes down to what you make of it at the end of the day. It doesn't have to be this intense, overwhelming experience. There is something for everyone. And by not being a part of gaming, by not being a part of the sort of digital world that is very much everywhere right now, you're only falling behind when it comes to dexterity, computer literacy, and keeping up with the world, quite frankly. It's the easiest way to get lost, is not being a part of the technological advancements, and not at least being aware of what is going on. Not saying that everybody has to game just to figure it out, at least just being open to listening more about gaming, clicking on, that cute free game on your Steam wish list that, like Olik, play it. You never know. You never know. That might spark like an idea for a book you had, or it might spark an idea for a cute present for your friend's birthday. Like, this is all the ways that gaming impacts people's lives, and positively. I want to add that. And I think on the converse side of this conversation, I also want to highlight to parents and coaches, and also students that, possibly even know someone that spends a lot of them time video gaming without any real, I guess, pleasure out of it, whether that
Yeah.
be, chatting with your best friend and, having a good chat, or, at least setting a goal for the game that you have 12,000 hours in. And, the world can be a very dark, scary place for people that don't have support systems. And again, that's where I'd like to, again, punt this Netflix show, is that you can absolutely, affect someone's life positively through video gaming as well. So keep an eye out for those people, and bring them up with you.
I can't agree anymore. I think if that's one thing when I was still a coach that I wanted to leave with is, leave that positive feel about gaming and esports and what you can achieve through it. It's what you can achieve through it. The friendships you make that last a lifetime through this unique sport. So never give up, never stop trying, always look for support wherever you go. But Julia, that's it for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to reach out to us. I'm going to put my email address in the chat for you. Please feel free to reach out. If you're a coach here, look out on socials for more webinars, and also the Esports in Durban. We hopefully will see you again next year, Julia. Um,
Definitely.
and we will also be looking at more webinars for parents next year about gaming and esports, so don't miss those. And with that, have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.